दुलड़िया बुहा और मिसरा को खंद्री मोने खन अड़ी दुख सला नोआ लय पे हुई कान तिया जे आपे खन संगीन चला रिया हुकुम हेड अदीना साना ताहे कना जे आपे को तला रे जेमन इनहन कुपास मेनखान नोंका दो बांग हुई दाड़े कना उनाते बिदल रिया वक्ते दो सेटेर आपे दो अड़ी मरांग जेद कना ईश्वर रेन बचाव कान को होड़ कना आपे इतिहास दो अड़ी के सोरोस और पेरे तुरुन आपे सावता और अरिचली लेग लेक्चर रिया अरी बंदी दो और रखा करते इन सामी इदी तुराई एंते नोआ को रखी जुगा दोहर लगी नित दबी बापे सपराव दाड़े होता नोआ दो आपे धन गे आले दिसम रे नोआ धन रखी जुगा दोहो का रिया व्यवस्था उटुका आदो जहाँ तीस देखमान पे हुई उन रे नोआ दो सुटिक दिए पे नोआ दो आपे ये तहना
You told me about a concert day before yesterday.
Yes.
I was very tired, so I fell asleep.
It's fully
But others attended.
They did? Okay.
I saw their pictures.
Yeah. It was very famous.
But your brother also has a band.
Yes.
But nowadays,
He's not playing that much anymore. But they do play sometimes.
Anthropologists have often pointed out the crucial significance of rumor and gossip in contexts leading to witchcraft accusation. The functionalist interpretation of rumor and gossip is associated with the work of the anthropologist Max Strickland, who maintains that gossip helps to maintain the unity and morality of the group involved in these activities. The body of the witch is seen as a repressive body. She vomits her excrement, gives birth to her anus, and has her feet turned backward. But the witch is also seen as able to fly and to take other form, Rook, a power she shares with the tribal deity Organised. Despite a repulsive body, exercise an erotic attraction. She goes about naked and she takes Bonga lovers, deity as lovers, in opposition to the decent wife, who keeps her clothes on during sexual activities. Witches are supposed to eat, chop their victim. This idea of eating, which recurs constantly in the witch stories in the incumbent today, does perhaps allude to the fact that women in Santal society are sometimes denied their share of meat, since they eat after their husband. Other prohibition concerns some part of the sacrificial animal. For example, women cannot eat the neck of the victims. In Africa, the same argument has been used to show that in polygyny society, also wives did not receive the same share of food, which brought jealousy and witchcraft. Stewart and Straton. Witches prefer to eat their closest relative, including their daughters and sons, and very often a mother-in-law induced her daughter-in-law to eat her husband. In this, both mother and daughter-in-law come from other village as well as, of course, other village, and may be considered as women not really integrated into their husband village.
You know, the other side, this kind of nation-building project with, grammar and dictionary and folk, that was the nation-building vision, which somehow some of them more or less devoted their whole lifetime to, because they kind of work triple. I mean, like Bodding, his amount of work probably amount to 3 or 4 normal lives.
Yeah, Bodding was actually more of a scholar. He was not really a missionary, I would say.
Yeah.
He began as a missionary, but he was more inclined to other things.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. He was, in certain ways, he was like he was
Amazing
a brilliant
person. Brilliant, amazing.
Like Scripstrud, also very brilliant. You know,
Scripstrud also not that much. Scripstrud was good, wonderful, but I mean, Bodding was absolutely.
Well, he has had, of course, a kind of formal and higher education. He was trained in the university.
Yes.
No, Scripstrud was kind of a natural genius.
Yes.
But he was also very good in
language.
Yes, he could learn very.
And he learned everything in prison.
Yes. Yeah. He used to go with the Santal hunters, you know, and learn their techniques and these things and songs, and see what they are doing, not doing.
And to have written a book like Hodkur and Mari Hapram Kuriya Katha. That is traditions and institutions of the Santals.
I mean, it's such a wonderful material for poetry and fiction.
Yes, I have actually in my father's autobiography, I have also in the introduction, a long introduction, I have also given a chronicle of the Santal Christian history. So in that I had used Marion Carey's book also. Yes.
Titles of the books from the working areas, not all the theological and Islamic, but all the ones from Africa and India and so forth will be. So we can on the net see what titles we have. When the merger took place and these many different missions brought together, then the 2 of the missions had large libraries, the Danish Santal Mission and the Danish Mission Society. And at that time, I was asked to merge the different libraries into one library. At that time, there was a policy for this library here that it should be a library for all people studying religion or mission or anything. But the board had then decided that the library should now only contain books from those mission organizations that merged. So I had to take out 3,000 titles and deregister, is that what you call it? Afregistrere. Deregister 3,000 titles, and then there were 3,500 new titles that were registered and put into the library here. And all the books were registered in these old-fashioned boxes here. They were not on the internet. So that was quite a task to get that working and find sufficient room for the books. And in here are all the magazines from the mission since 1821 up till today. We have all the issues of the magazines, and you can see when we needed to find pictures that we didn't know anything about. If we knew the year, then we could always go into the magazine and find what this was all about. Urdu, Telugu. What's your language up there? Santali.
I can see Santali.
Santali is here, yes.
Santali, Sanskrit, Oriya.
Yeah, up there, Santali. That's the one row is Santali. So that's all written in Santali. We don't use that much, but if we've been given a Bible in Santali, then we won't throw it away. We put it up on the Santali. So about 6,000 of those were recovered, and then out of the black and white pictures, there were about 36,000. And slides, there were 8,000. The slides were not so easy to identify. What was the easiest part of the slides was to throw away those who looked like the other ones, because usually they're taking 10 pictures of the same once you got to the slides. That was not the case with the paper pictures. That was only one. When we have identified these ones, and that was with help of missionary and missionary children. And the mission history is not a crocodile in the river or a village, a town. Much of the cultural pictures were also sorted out because we had to have finances, and pictures from the churches and the pastors and the schools and hospitals and so forth were sort of given priority. And then for each area, we said we would take about 50 cultural pictures to put in. This is from Mongolia.
It's also rather new pictures.
Yeah, they are new pictures. And of course, the archive is what we call a historical archive running from 1821 to year 2000. But the one we had yesterday, we don't really believe that grandchild who's correcting a picture of her grandparents, that she's right. So if that's the case, then we've got to find the original picture, which is very easy. We know exactly where the original picture is when we get that response, and then we can see where did we get it from and what is written on the picture. So we can make sure that any addition is correct.
Yes.
It's in Assam.
Previously, when before independence,
Yeah.
people from Benagaria and Dunga, they used to go through the Bangladesh
Yeah.
and go to Tipkai.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we must have you
Yeah,
as consultant.
That's right.
Photograph about us. So the camera was different,
So then this house was built in 1908 and given by a Danish farmer to the mission. And he said this house has to look like a castle because the mission is a very important organization. And in the backyard there were two buildings similar to this, smaller, and that is built for missionaries on furlough. So when missionaries came home, there would always be a house, flat or and so forth for them to live in. Today, this is the most expensive quarter of Denmark, Hellerup. You've got the Romanian embassy there.
Oh.
You've got the Israeli one over there with the roof on.
Oh.
You've got the Turkish one down here. So it's an embassy quarter. And when we were merging the missions, we were planning on selling this because it's too beautiful for a simple mission.
You have manual settings in this?
You will have to try.
Color.
Aronian.
Nå, jeg er ude meget.
Hvad?
Jeg er ude nok. Vil du det, ja?
Nej, Aronia.
Nå, Aronia.
Ja, vi skal vise vores familie. Dig og Magnus. Ja. Det kan man se.
It's a kind of sausage made of pork and cucumbers, and then potatoes and carrots go very well with it. That is typical Danish. But actually, in Denmark, in families with children, we eat a lot of Southern European menus, because a lot of Danes love to go to Italy and Greece and Spain in their holiday. So this is lasagna from Italy, like they do it in Italy. And this is a salad inspired by the Greek salad. And it goes with the cheese and the olives and tomatoes.
이 지금 올해도 눈컬도 먹라도 겁니다. 우리 안 맥개가 먹라도 나는. 나도 이거 아프 마셔야겠나. 아프겠나. 파는 하우스잖아. 그렇게 이렇게.
Hvad siger du? Ja, hun filmer det. Ja.
Hvordan gør du det? Jeg snakker på Santali.
Ja. Er der en lyd på det, hun optager?
Ja.
No? Yeah. You can hear the sound of.
Yes.
So you speak in Santali.
Yeah. Hello, everybody.
When you met her for the first time, how did you talk to her? Did you already know the Danish language?
That question was almost killing him.
Ja. Vi har aldrig snakket engelsk sammen, vi har snakket dansk sammen.
So it was in Danish from the start.
Så det var så altså vigtigt for far, at han skulle lære dansk. Men det kom sådan helt naturligt.
Ja.
Når ikke jeg kunne engelsk. Kirsten og Santos, de har sikkert snakket meget engelsk sammen, kunne jeg forestille mig. You know Santos had also a Danish wife.
Santa's song.
Yes.
Santa's song, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Later on, she went to a course about 100 kilometers from where they lived to learn the English language.
Ja. Men vi snakkede dansk, ikke, og så den smule, jeg kunne på engelsk. Så der er opstået mange misforståelser.
So they mostly spoke Danish and a bit the little bit of English that she had learned. And they had a lot of misunderstandings.
भाषा के मानता है क्या? ये भाषा में वाली बात ये मतलब 1966.
Ja, det kan da godt være, det er bare
1966.
at det er meget, han nok også. Ja.
1966, 31st July. Is it that no? And so much of other wonderful internal language study there. That town, the old school. And the family there. And the wonderful Hena in that town. Hospital. All week. Now, only in the national student. Hey. पढ़ाओ जो कोई पढ़ाओ को सलामा अंते बोले कोई इंस्ट्रक्टर था क्या ना अंते डॉक्टर एक इसकी लेंगे अंते ना ना उन्हीं बार होता है इंग्लिश में अतः यार मिट बात था ये तो आसपास इंग्लिश कोर्स खाता हूँ थोड़ा चला देखता है और उन्होंने कोई बस 67 या मुझे 68 है इंडिया चला मैं इसका
अच्छा
बोले इनको तो ये फॉर्मूली
अच्छा
अरे मैं नोट ही था इसका
दुमका थे
दुमका अरे इन बातें कोई कहते हैं कि ये तो कलकत्ता है अरे उन्होंने कोई नहीं बाव फोटो नहीं मारिया अब वो उनको बहुत गोल कोट है उन्हें फोटो उन्हें चश्मा था कि उन्हें कहे अब कटा किसी होगा वो ना सना फोटो ठीक था क्या अरे समर्थ है क्या था अरे उन्हें उनको उन्हीं चाहिए हाँ इनका फोटो है इनको वो अदर श्रीलंका बड़ी दिन था दे रूट बनता है क्या श्रीलंका सिलोन तैनता है कोलंबो हो ना कोलंबो नहीं तो ऑन रखो मद्रास को टंका अदर ऑन दे उन्हें अंते उसूली उन्हें सही का कोई किया उन्हीं का है अंते उन्हें चश्मा खुना है किसी राउंड का इन्हें सलामत है क्या उनको वो उन्हें हाँ इन बाइक रूम के साथ सुने
Ja, men det var ju det så.
होला रे ना ये रे ओना ग्रीनलैंड हमको मेंशन किया को ओंडे ना ओना उनको ड्रेस ताहे कना ना स्किन रे एनिमल स्किन ड्रेस ओना को बाबत ते ओना को प्रिजर्व का ताहे कना ओना बाबत ते को गामरा होला
अदो उन जो उनका की जाओ बच्चों उनका 90 जाओ बच्चों में जाओ जा करना क्या फोन छुट्टी दो क्यों इन टाइम दो रिटायर करते दो बच्चों रे बार दो अब गोटा कोस्ट जहाँ तक एरिया ना साम हॉस्पिटल में है नॉर्थ साउथ ईस्ट वेस्ट ये उन बांगे तो जब तक कंप्लीट वो एक्सपीरियंस नहीं है अगर उनसे मेरी बात ठीक है तो उन्हें ना भाषा तो बेचती है अरे उन्हें भाषा तो इंडियनिश नहीं चला
अच्छा
अगर रवाई तो रवाई चलाओ कर नॉर्थ में चला गया था अक्टूबर मुझे सही ना लगा था आस्ते आस्ते नीतू नवंबर मुझे तो मुझे है मुझे सिंग जान दो एकान दिन यार दिन बुनुआ एकान दिन तम अप्रैल को है तो आस्ते आस्ते सिंग चला गया
तो वे उन्हें तो बोले आइमा दिन रे यिंदर आइमा दिन रे
दामा है लेकिन ये तो मेरे ये ना स्टेज में ने तब पे मैंने कर दी गोटा दी सी गोटे 24 आवर्स चल आसे नहीं चाहता मैं आ रहा है कर नॉर्थ तक चला अदर मिटे एक्सपीरियंस लगी तो मैं था तो चला ना नवंबर में ना नींद उठाती सेता जब डिफरेंस ही बांध दिया कभी न्यूज की चला कभी रहा न्यूज अदर लाइट उठा की लाइट इंडिया के नेल दुनिया के नेल था कटी रहा तो उन्हें हॉर पक था
टाइल रूफ वाला ओड़ा को तहे कना ट्रेडिशनल हाउसेस और बीर को जहर थान को तहे कना होला
ओनमा ई कटी भागा दो हॉर ओड़ा दो दुनकर दो आले ओड़ा बुझो मीते पका ओड़ा संथाला तहे कना के दुनकर ओड़ा में आता है उना पहिला उतरा हॉर उना सेडा कते एटा होड़ा दो हॉर्स बलू इतना होड़ा था कि आड़े रहा अब उनको टिंग कैन बाहर हम तो स्कूल टीचर को बाहर को संता टीचर को उनको बाहर तो साइकिल तो भी का था चुन हाँ और उन्हें तो कानगोई साहब था अब उन्हें तो हंडी खूब नहीं करता है
साहब बताए कना
बाग में तय करता को कानगोई साहब असर द साहब द बाग that already सब पढ़ करना है हंसता हो उनको पेड़ा मिला को ये ना तलेरी है उनको ये लेकर उनको हंसता हो करना मैं चिंता करना कान को हंसता सच्ची कुछ है
ओकटा टोला रे
अरे तुम करे बड़ा आड़े रे
अच्छा
मुझे को ये था का गार्डन था कर
हंसदा मा उनको मेना को उनको अबिगेल
है उनको उड़ी गोड़म्बा
है जॉन हाड़ाम की आले द स्टीफन हाड़ाम खले होई कना स्टीफन द ग्रेट ग्रैंडफादर कना उनी रे बया था कना जॉन
है एते स्कूल रहा था कना बोर्डिंग था कना बोर्डिंग स्कूल तो हॉल को था कना स्कूल को से को तो धुनी सरन ना बोर्डिंग पे था कना
ओकटा छो
डॉक्टर धुनी सरन
है ओकटा स्कूल गुइये जुड़ी
जिले स्कूल बार दुपे जिले स्कूल
अच्छा
अब ये ना बोर्डिंग रहता है बिल्कुल जो संथाल बोर्डिंग है ना ना आड़े है तो हवा को कोठा है ना मारे स्टिक मैं गाल दो उड़ा को चला गया और बड़ा नमी होना पोस्ट ऑफिस में जाता होना को कल मैं तो ऊल बगान था ना फिर साइड दो ऊल बगान था अब उन्हें उड़ा पहले kan उन्हें तो ऊल बगान था बांधो जुड़ी से चला था kan दारी लेटू टू दारी था अब देखो मैं देखो तोयो को ये लेखा के तोयो आई
तो ये दो nyanyom ti ale ko
हां
नेता तो बनो को
नेता ना तो अभी बीट है कि दुख आले को बीट
and then a bit of history, a bit of witchcraft, a bit of clan and subclan, or clan and subclan is a rather large bit, but compared to the large amount, Bodding loved folklore. And if he could collect folk tales, he much preferred that, and then he now and then sent some of his collectors to collect other things specially, or he would asked some of his informants and collectors to write their biography. For instance, some of the church women, one of the church women had written their her and her husband's biography, Sona woman. So there are a lot of stray material, but the core is folklore. So in that way, you know about the content from the published works of Bodding.
We are Santal Disong on Alea Johar Katan. Initially, when I tried my hands into translating foreign texts into my language, I intended to see, despite ambiguities, if they could be comprehended in Santal's way, as to introduce the foreign essence to the text. There could be cultural differences, but if they could be understood along with these cultural differences. But the readers reacted otherwise. They gave me feedback in very interesting way. They said, if you had changed the milieu of the story, it would be sounded better in Santali.
The goal of the National Library is to be the best source of documentations of Norway, the country, the people, and the Norwegian society. We collect, catalogue, and preserve and give access to the collections of the library based on the law and collecting all types of published documents produced from different kinds of media. And we collect relevant archival materials, and we collect foreign material about Norwegian matters. Largest collections on Santali, consisting of manuscripts and ethnographic objects. The collection was donated to the University of Oslo from one of its alumni, Paul Olof Bodding, returning for missionary service in the North India in the Santal Parganas area. Here you can see an old Norwegian map from 1926, used in school, and with the name Santalistan just above Calcutta. The University Library and the National Library used to be one institution, as I said, and when they separated the national collections, cultural heritage, and legally deposited material was kept in the National Library, together with all collections that demanded special facilities, such as most rare books and manuscripts. Since that time, the Santali manuscripts are held by the National Library. Paul Olof Bodding was a young Norwegian linguist, folklorist, and missionary priest. He traveled to India in January 1890 to join the Norwegian Santal mission, and he lived there for 44 years. In addition to missionary activities, he devoted much of his time to ethnographic study and documentation of Santali language, culture, and oral history. Bodding published numerous works on Santali cultural heritage, including a dictionary and volumes on folk tales and Santali traditional medicine. The archives of Paul Olof Bodding consist of Santali handwritten manuscripts and Bodding's notes. The manuscripts that Santali sources recorded by hand, together with Bodding's notes, served as a basis for several of Bodding's publications, such as the Santali translation of the Bible and the Santal Dictionary. In 1999, Santosh Kosonen published Santalia, catalogue of Santali manuscripts in Oslo, a detailed review and description of the manuscripts in the archive.
There are volumes from A to Z. And these volumes are written, Bodding has written in big letters, capital letters. There are many folk tales, also other things, small stories. He has collected, bound together these stories, papers, in volumes, and they run also from A to T now, but in small letters, lowercase letters. That is the difference. Here also, there are many folk tales and things like that, stories. Where 1486, there are files, because it is subdivided again. Here you go, page 109, one title, number 20, file, and then part, and then you go to the number.
I think it still remains to be translated, those that you are talking about. And we had, this actually comes under a library section, manuscript museum and all. So we most of the times and we are undecided which part of the manuscript to let people study and which part not to. We are undecided, but I don't think anyone approached to go through those. Because Asiatic Society had started to collect all these manuscripts, and still we are very rich in it. But most of the people are interested in Sanskrit manuscript, but not many for. No, of course, I didn't know. I don't know if anyone has done Norwegian. No, but main focus is on Sanskrit in Asiatic Society. So maybe they're still open.
And as you see here, you can choose to download it, and you can download one of the images or the whole part of the images. If you want to have very high resolution files, you have to send us an email, and then we will send you this also for free. But here you can, from the website, you can download what you normally need. But if you want to publish it, you might want to ask for high resolution files. And unfortunately, all the text here is in Norwegian, which is not a very common language outside Norway, so you must just ask us for help if you don't really understand how to do it.
Translators from Norwegian to English.
Well, most Norwegians
we want some translators.
We are working on an English version on the website, but I don't know when it's coming.
Digital access does not necessarily diminish the importance of improved access to the physical collections. And that was also something I'm very concerned about, because I meet many internationally from the museum side who kind of say, now we have done it through the virtual collection, so we can somehow, cut down on the resources for giving the custodians physical access. And in my view, that is not often recommendable. Rather, my people should enhance also the physical access, at least for a generation, in order to really allow for that. I'll definitely concentrate a lot on digital technology and discuss the distinction between virtual and physical repatriation in relationship again to international law. And of course here we are talking of indigenous groups, ethnic minorities and native peoples as source communities, as the international terminology is, and as ultimate custodians. And as ultimate custodians, it's a different term from source community, because it recognizes that it's important to recognize that what also is source communities have very much vibrant oral and written traditions, which has continued to sort of, develop and to also to sort of develop quite new forms of culture, ideas and products that are in the collection, but nevertheless are connected with the collections. And also, one should notice the difference in terminology. The Santali collection and the Santal Bodding Collection, which is a term I introduced at the Bodding Symposium 3 years ago, don't mean the same. One specifically refers to the language heritage, and the last terminology is my suggestion in order to enhance also the collective sort of custodianship of the Santal as a people, not just the collector's name. But definitely there is a longer collection process which started fairly soon after Bodding arrived in India. And that's actually something I think we should research more, how this was done throughout the collection process. You have also these issues of voluntariness, collaboration versus more like, say, forced extraction of material. All that is left basically for fuller research. We know that Bodding was in charge, and he was taking actively part as a collector. You had the Santals, who in those days terminology was called by Bodding and so many other Orientalists helpers. We know they were actual collectors. We know they were transcribers of oral narratives into written Santali. We have this interesting, not very much discussed issue of authorship. But as you perhaps know, if you read the special issue I gave out last year, which was in collaboration also with Santal authors, that there is an article there who argues specifically that Bodding should not be defined as an author, but that some of the Santal should rather be so. So this is an issue we really need to work more on. For example, Sagra movement. We know he was incredibly important.
And he asked one of his associates, Santal associates there, what is it? And he said, Chetar Devi, or something like that. That's what he said. It means the thunderbolt. And that's what he has given, how he came to know about these stone tools that the Santals possessed. But those had a different kind of medicinal value, spiritual value to them. He started collecting them, and it was not an easy task because they had another sort of value to these people. Most of them, according to Bodding, he had purchased. And one he had to purchase for the money of 12 rupees. And in between 1899 and 1901, this 12 rupees was a high value that belonged to a medicine man who used it, and that would have fetched him 12 rupees means almost a few years' income.
When we talk about archives, there is definitely by default a certain sense of enforcement, state enforcement, which comes in. There is a kind of a record keeping which comes in. And at the same time, this record keeping or archivization entails a certain kind of distancing from the community, because there are so many governmental protocols which are attached to that archiving or archivization. There is hardly an empowerment of the community over the materials. Now this is where Pure Bodding's material over here has a very interesting aspect to it. It is not something that we are envisaging as something which would be as a state enforcement, but as a kind of a dynamic archivization which could be possible, not only with the archive which is already stored, but with the archivization that is happening right now. Let's say and this is something which even Sundar has talked about in earlier times, where we have become mini archivists. We take documents, we are constantly recording. Even in Santali world, they are constantly recording certain things that are happening, and it is almost like live. So there is this one archive which is sheltered, which is processed and sheltered, and there is another archive which is not processed, but which is constantly recording. There is a lot of evidence around it. Now, there is another kind of an archive which is intangible. Something which comes down the lineage, something which is genealogically we inherit, but somehow they do not conform to the tangible sources, because the archives that we have is a tangible source. And there is a lot of archive or a lot of the past that is constantly forgotten because they're not archivized properly, so-called properly. Now, as a researcher, our prerogative could be to join them, to bring both the archives that are already there, and at the same time to see how new methods of archiving is constantly taking place among the community. But then there is another thing that also Boroda mentioned, that the community, there is also a kind of an imitation which goes on, imitation of modernity which goes on within the community, which tries to shape the community in a certain manner. Now, do we take that as given, or do we need to question that? Now, if we take all these together, then the very pastness of the past changes. There are multiple questions that we couldn't even question the past, because the past doesn't necessarily remain pristine, but the past is constantly changing. And this is what Paul Ricoeur, a famous French historian, says, that we cannot change the past. What we can change is what the past means in the present.
Nadom dole singila, nadom dole sikule, nadom dole singila, nadom dole sikule, बैरागलिए रसीना तो कुड़ी कुड़ा जोड़ जले ताहे कना मेरी रसीना तो कुड़ी कुड़ा जोड़ जले ताहे कना मेरी जोड़ जले जोड़ भगावे ले मेरी जोड़ जले जोड़ भगावे
I would like to talk about an incident and what I experienced when I went to shoot in a village after 5 o'clock in the evening.
In myth, Mircea Eliade, what he says is that in a myth, in a creationist myth, in primitive religions, it plays a very important role. Creation myth plays a very important role. Basically, it deals with a natural phenomenon, how it is created, how Earth is created, cosmos, humans, animals, etc. And then it all happens in primordial time, and also the creation myth is narrated ritualistically. And once it is narrated, it becomes part of the secret history of that culture. And it has two important functions. Creation story has two important ways, Karamniti or creation myth. It explains and it regenerates. So whenever the story is told in front of the people, I mean the Karam Guru tells the story, then the people are reunited with their gods, their ancestors, and through this reunion they are regenerated and they are also renewed spiritually.
So this is the church building and the Ebenezer stone. As we know the history about how they came to India working for the Santals. Formerly they used the name the Indian Home Mission to the Santals, and later stage they changed the name to SMNC, Santal Mission of Northern Churches. So we know this Kirab Sahib, Kirab and Papa Sahib, both are here. Lars Olsen Skrevsrud and Hans Peter Borison. They were popularly known among the Santals as Kirab Sahib and Papa Sahib. Beside them is Paul Olaf Bodding, about whose contributions today we are thinking about and we want to carry it ahead. And the dates are given during those period when they were there in working in the Santal, among the Santals. Now the contributions that they had done were educational work, and they opened a boys' school that was in 1867 and a girls' school that was 1868. Then the evangelist work which they carried on was started in 1869. Later on they spread their work on literary work and printing in 1873, and healing ministry, that is hospitals, they opened and they in the rural area of the Santhal Pargana it was in 1874, now which is we call it Mool Pahari Prison Hospital, that was been brought to Mool Pahari, shifted from Binagaria in 1950. And then they had some project to develop the skills of the Santal people, and they run as weaving centers and carpentry work, which they started in 1915, where a lot of printing materials used to be published, and also this was the first printing press that was allotted by the government as a license to the area for the Santal community. Then we see Bodding's legacy, the books that we are talking about today.
150 years since they established the mission in Binagaria. When I first came, I lived at Mool Pahari. We were there for 1 year approximately, learning the Santali language somehow. And we spent 2 years in Kairabani, where the boys' high school is. And later on, the last 12 years, we lived at Koroya Mission, a little bit north of Dunka. Midt på Catalogue der de en har det jo et innhildning da passet men kan Santali language se bahasa do det målskia det exact language kan ona da de har en bujuda जुद जायकारा उकारे होड़ इंडियामित कुआ बांग्लादेश नेपाल इंडिया एकदम mitt kororda grammatically är det korrekt kororda are noa då being oral I mean it is transformed orally mostly arona då det har en bujuda.
Is it an injury? Injury?
No, this is
from birth. Okay.
Yeah.
See, the streets are almost empty now.